Okay. Just the elemental. Okay, can I ask you to come towards the screen? We had 31 people on Zoom last time I checked, so we try to capture it there as well. I'm going to run a little bit around with this camera, see if we can get that working. So, wow. Irene, will you start?
Yes, I would. Hi, my name is Irene Dunne. I am the director here at EGO, and I'm just going to make a very short welcome to you, and then give you over to the program. So, welcome to all of you. It's a pleasure always to inaugurate a new book, and this today we are a special occasion because we're looking about SOT, system-oriented design. I'm not sure if we have made a book like that before, but I don't think so. So it's a first. So great to see all of you, and I hope that you will enjoy the afternoon with the speeches, and afterwards get very clever reading this book. And of course, a special congratulations to the authors of the book, and you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Congratulations. So, and I know now we have invited some people to teach at this book lounge.
Yes.
So have a great afternoon and congratulations. I'm looking forward to learn a bit more about the content.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think I'll try to do it this way because it's a bit tricky to keep the camera and try to talk and remember what I want to say.
You want to hold the camera?
If you want it.
It's so nice that the people over there can see you.
So let's.
Sorry if I'm making you seasick.
Okay. Just introducing this. The program today is, I'll say a few words. Birgit will talk after. How was that again? I need to check.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm happy.
you are after me, and then it's Birgit. Thank you. And we try to keep it fairly short so that we have a little time for mingling before we have the next little session, which is Zoom wise with Harold Nelson from US, Silvio from Italy, and then Peter Jones from Canada. And then the bit of mingling, and then we have Linda and Benedicta and Adrian, I will say a little bit at the end. We try to keep it fairly short. I'm kind of facilitating and introducing myself. That's the exercise. But I just want to say that it's cool. I've known Birgit a while, and we sailed a race last summer in your boat. And it was kind of funny because it was a bit two grumpy old men sailing a boat and trying to race. And Birgit is there on the helm, and I'm trying to command him a little bit on where I think he should sail, and he's steering. And we had a dialogue going. I challenge him, he stares, he has. And in a way, it feels like how we've been working together as well, because you are definitely at the helm, having your book and having the whole expertise, and I'm trying to challenge, looking out, seeing what else is there. And sometimes when we sail, it's a good thing. I can sit in front there, I can yell "tack now," and then usually that's what I say. Usually, and now I'm suddenly in chair, being the team leader of systems-oriented design. So he's kind of my employee, but he's also my mentor, definitely, when it comes to systems-oriented design and the whole thing. But I think also, if you look at it, team systems-oriented design, we have discussed a lot on what is solved, what is systematic design, what is solved, where is the boundaries, and I'm just seeing that it's so nice now to have a book. Because we get people who ask us what is solved. Should you come to us and have an introduction of systems-oriented design? We set aside 15 minutes for you. 15 minutes? No, I can't come and do that in 15 minutes. Now I can send them the book and say, this is why. I need 3 hours or 3 days or what we prefer to do in the executive masters. We would have 3 years. That's a good kind of portion of time to explain systems-oriented design. I've been working with design executive master, and we have used the book. We have used the book for 2 years with the students, because we had an early version that we sort of divided among the students in PDF, and everybody has read it. And we do get some complaints when we ask them to read Gerald Midgley, because it's a bit heavy philosophy. But when they ask big, like, this was nice, this was good reading compared to that. So it's like it's still kind of heavy philosophy. So it's been great. So now it's available. Now everybody can really looking forward to that and forward to the discussion and this next cohort of executive management. We will actually force them to buy the Bible. So thanks a lot for that. I'll be sort of introducing the next speaker. So this is now I'm changing to being a facilitator. And please stop.
Well, first of all, a very, very warm and heartfelt congratulations to you for the perseverance and truly important work that you've done that has resulted in this book, Designing Complexity. It's quite important and a bit emotional. In this book, as in your practice as a professor and colleague, you generously share your values, your beliefs, your assertions, and your assumptions in clear and transparent ways from your long life of thinking and acting as a systems-oriented designer. And as you say, systems-oriented design is not just a method or tool, it's an approach and a mindset. So therefore, this transparent sharing of all those beliefs is so important. My name is Raquel Troya, as Andreas mentioned, and I'm newly appointed Pro-Rector of Education here at Oslo, but I have been the head of the Institute of Design during all the time that Vigdis has been working on this book, for 11 years actually, since 2012. And I believe I can say that both at the Institute and outside of the walls of Oslo, and particularly actually in the back offices and corridors of Oslo, I have defended, supported, and I think I can say in a humble way that I have contributed to facilitating for the development of the field of systems-oriented design here at AHO. And in some way, maybe just contributed a tiny, tiny bit to the existence of this book, which I'm incredibly proud to be able to facilitate for. I've always had a strong sense and conviction of the importance of the value of systems-oriented design. And Vigdis, in my opinion, your work, and thus this book, has made 3 important contributions and is making 3 important contributions. We will now in a little bit and then we will zoom out. Systems-oriented design, first of all, has contributed to the Institute of Design as well as to the Oslo School of Architecture and Design. Systems-oriented design bridges at the Institute across products, services, and interactions. And this is work that can continue and shall and will do so. We have a model of our education at the Institute of Design where we visualize our education and research in work in progress, and the boundaries between interactions and services and products are blurred, and around all these disciplines there's a nice orange circle where it says systems-oriented design, because it is actually positioned surrounding all our disciplines and sort of embracing them in a sense, I believe. We are integrating systems-oriented design into both the bachelor level and the master's level, and we're finding a really good form and way of doing that, despite the complexity of that issue for our students. And I'm convinced that our engaging with and exploration of systems enriches our design disciplines. Furthermore, systems-oriented design contributes to the quality and the richness and the relevance of our research, teaching, and student projects. And beyond that, systems-oriented design contributes to bridging the disciplines across all of AHU: architecture, urbanism, landscape architecture, and design. And this is, of course, also very valuable. Beyond our own education, systems-oriented design has substantially contributed to positioning AHU internationally. The RSD, Relating Systems Thinking and Design Symposium, has become an important international arena for discussing and developing the discipline of systems thinking and systems-oriented design in a truly interdisciplinary context. And I believe this has also helped to position design within a much broader range of fields and disciplines. The Systemic Design Association has grown out of here as well. International recognition, many master's students actually come on an exchange to AHU to take particularly systems-oriented design from very renowned educational institutions. And finally, the executive Masters in Systems-Oriented Design that was launched just over a year ago, demonstrated with very short recruiting, 60 applicants for a paid education with 25 spots from around the world, from very many different disciplines. And Birgir and Andreas and many others, that's quite a feat. So, and we're very proud to have an executive master's within design. Secondly, systems-oriented design has positioned design in new contexts. It's advanced and opened doors for the disciplines of design to go way beyond its traditional role and impact. The world is messy, and it's constantly getting messier all the time. And as we all know, I believe, design is about much, much more than just solving problems. The book provides a good introduction to how, for example, visual thinking and visual communication leads to success when dealing with complexity. It champions visual inquiry and communication as essential to understanding and engaging with complexity. And the complex issues that we are faced with demand that we collaborate across disciplines and roles. And I think every one of you in this room has experienced how challenging that can be. Through its designerly approach, systems-oriented design creates gigamats and other visualizations that allow different stakeholders to have a common understanding of the issues at hand, which is incredibly valuable. And to quote part of the book, says that, and this is a quote from Birgir Sevolson, "Those who practice systems-oriented design communicate by humbly inviting people in to develop a shared overall understanding of complex problem areas. The consequence of this is that systems-oriented design is important for building bridges between silos and is a catalyst for successful interdisciplinary collaboration. It is also embedded in the systems-oriented design that all specialists are represented. All specialist areas, represented at AHU are used to find the right and good interventions." And to also quote Birgir, this enables us to educate adaptive experts. This is something we discuss quite often. Work in progress. And I believe that systems-oriented design strengthens our design discipline's relevance to society and the world that we live in. Third and finally, Birgir, I believe that systems-oriented design contributes to making the world that we live in a little bit better. One point is just the fact that everything you do is open source. You make it available to a much wider community.
That's very generous and a big contribution to actually having impact and making a difference. You also have opened up and made your approach and thinking and the designerly way of working with complexity available to much, much broader audience than just designers. Systems-oriented design and systems thinking in the world has taken on momentum, and it helps us respond to all the nested crises that we find ourselves in. Climate, decline in democracy, social injustice, war, inequality, and so on. Design, as we see it, is going way beyond its traditional role and increasing sales and consumption. And as designers, we have great opportunities, but we also have an enormous responsibility. We need to be able to imagine and develop powerful ways of intentionally shaping alternative futures. But we need to be aware of our ethics, our biases, and our strengths and limitations. In our alternative solutions and proposals, we need to be conscious about who we are designing for and why, and about how we can enrich the lives and experiences of the people that have to live with the decisions that we are making. We have to be conscious of how we can create and contribute to products, interactions, and services that are well considered, understandable, delightful, inclusive, and just. Systems-oriented design offers an approach and a mindset, not only a method and tools to work within this complexity, but actually thrive in the complexity and accept that things will constantly change. So in a very profound way, big systems-oriented design and your work makes us better equipped to tackle real and wicked issues of sustainability, amongst others, by understanding the consequences of what we do and help us to avoid unintended consequences. So yes, I believe systems-oriented design really does contribute to making the world a little better. Birgit, you have not done this on your own, and I'm sure there are others who will be thanking, but I think it's important to mention that our partners from DOGA, Oslo Met, colleagues at the Institute, across the globe, at Polity and OCAD, and last but not least, our students, both our undergraduate students, our master's students, and our PhD students. So this approach needs to be able to thrive and grow and constantly develop. It's a living process that continues to develop as rapid change piles up. So I'm looking forward to seeing how systems-oriented design continues to flourish at the Oslo School of Architecture and Design and beyond our walls, together with all of you, our partners, and you, Birgit. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
So Birgit, it's your time to talk, but you ask me to ask you some questions. How we do this?
Yes, and very short.
Yeah, very short. Okay. Tell me, why did you write the book?
Oh my God. Well, it started with us thinking about that being a designer used to be being part of big problems. We were like integrated into producing problems, trying to increase the turnover of raw materials in forms of digital equipment or ski equipment or whatever. So I wanted to become part of a solution rather than part of the problem. And the other answer to this is that we made this what we call systems-oriented design as a practice, and together with a lot of input from a lot of students and discussions with people, colleagues, etc. But in the end, I found that what is it actually? It's very little. It's giga mapping and some other small tools in addition. And I felt other people made all those huge tool chests, and I had to sort of think about it. Why don't we have all those tools? We have some tools, but there are not so many. And why do I sort of hesitate to make all those tools? And my answer to this was that what really counts is practice, build experience and knowledge about how to live in, how to work with, and how to tackle complex issues. So this led me to think about praxeology, like writing down what kind of practice solve is. That's how the book started many years ago.
Yeah. But as you say, you kind of allergic to linearism. You want it to be more, everything should not be linear, should more be circular. You should have made a circular book then, or how did you go about sort of writing a book in that?
Yeah, I mean, the way I tackled this, I mean, writing a book about designing complexity is, as I start the book, it's a daunting task. It's like very difficult, but I have this Persian rug. I grew up in Iran when I was a kid, and from there I have this very old and valuable Qashqai rug, and which is full of, some people call it errors, but they are obviously made on purpose. And this gave me the inspiration to think about it as a weave, or a piece of cloth that is weaved together. Actually, the term complexity means to be plated or interwoven in a way. So the way I did it, I had three parts. One is to just bring people on board, which is sort of the linear threads. I forgot the English word. And then the second part is the theories, the background, the philosophies, which sort of bind the whole thing together. And the third part is like the knots that you bring color and content and flavor to the thing. So you can read the book in at least those three ways. And I hope I have managed. There's a lot of meandering, actually, repetitions. I was very worried about this. It's always repeating myself and getting back to the issues until I found out, okay, this is actually a good feature.
What's been most fun about writing a book?
Nothing. It's been true hell. I don't like writing, and I write very slowly. As Raku said, it took 11 years. Maybe that's no, it was the most fun thing is to crystallize those concepts, and that's when I get enthusiastic and can write down something. Maybe some students made a new way of mapping, or I remember a student from Oslo Met who made this illustration of a funnel and a tunnel, explaining the difference between normal diagramming, which means you simplify down and you end up with very little information in the end, while gigamapping was more like a tunnel. You don't lose a lot of information on that way, but you get it organized in a new way. So these were like those pieces of code that the students and colleagues produced. So yeah, that was the most fun moments when I find this and I try to generalize or write something about it.
So what's your, you asked me to be short, and I'll try to be short, so this is the last one, but how do you hope that this book now will be used in the time to come?
Part one can be used for people who just wonder what it is. Part two can be used for people who are interested in the relation between systems, theory, and design practice. And part three can be an inspiration to how to go deeper into it and how to talk about practice. After all, we are practitioners. This is the practitioner science, the science of practitioner. And we tend to dress up in nice theories, but we are practitioners. And it all started with Florence Nightingale, first scientific practitioner. Okay.
Thank you. Maybe 5 minutes of meeting. So, yes, Harold, please go.
Okay, thank you. So congratulations, Berger, on your book. I knew you could do it. It's as wonderful as I thought it was going to be. I was smart enough that I wrote down my comments and I had them published as the forward to your book. So I don't have to say a lot. I can save people their time and attention. But I wanted to say a few things in addition to what I wrote in the forward, and I still believe very much in what I said. And that's kind of looking back on the book and what it's accomplished, been successful already in classes. I wanted to make a suggestion. I mean, the idea of this being a bridge between disciplines and that sort of thing is very much true, I think. And a book for non-designers, I think that's true as well. And I would like to make a case that this is also a resource for people who are identifying themselves as designers in brand new fields. If you look Wikipedia or something and get a list of all the fields of design nowadays, I mean, it's overwhelming. It's way beyond the traditional normal material designer categories. So a colleague from Carnegie Mellon and I, one of the projects I'm working with on is the relationship of design and AI. And society right now is getting spewed with high-tech products and services that is overwhelming people. Some of it is benign, some of it is weaponized, but people are being stressed. And the designers of these particular products and services are now apologizing in some cases for the damage that they're doing. So I believe that this book as kind of a milestone for being able to move design into whole new arenas of complexity and consequence that people hadn't thought of before. And I hope that you get opportunities to begin to use the bridge, this book as a bridge into those areas. And it's your book, and I mean, does a good job of getting people, asking people to think out of the box. And I think it can get people to get out of the box and go into entirely new areas, take the spirit, the essence of design into arenas of complexity that really, really are stressing societies in a lot of ways. And it's a way that I think design can actually make a big improvement in people's lives, in their quality of life and their standard of life. So congratulations. Thanks for inviting me to Oslo, where the wine is flowing and the sun is shining. It's not like that here at all, trust me. So anyway, congratulations, well done. And I was glad to have been a kind of an observer in all of this process. I really appreciate your letting me tag along.
Thank you, Harold. And Sylvia, are you there, Sylvia?
Hi. Hi, everyone.
I was kind of thinking the speaker should change the picture. What I'm doing wrong in the setup here? I just need to. There's some Zoom experts there that want to. Right? Yeah. We're looking at Harold and Adpin, is that what you're saying? Ah, that was not what I was meaning to do. Ja, vi tror det. Okay, Sylvia, go.
Hi. First of all, I'm very grateful to be here today, even if virtually, to participate to this literal milestone, as Harold said. For the systemic design community, it is really breathtaking. And even more, I'm honored to share some thoughts on this book with all of you. So the reality in which we live is extremely complex, and today more than ever we are becoming increasingly aware of it, not only because although the science of complex systems has its roots in the 1840s, but also because it seems more relevant than ever. Today, in fact, we hear more and more about systemic in various fields, and also the recent Nobel Prize in Physics awarded in 2021 to Parisi, Mandelbrot, and Hasselmann for their theory, which describes systems that seem so complex as to escape any possible quantitative characterization, appears to be further a proof of this. Considering also the global economy, the effect of climate change or the pandemic, we are constantly facing complex systems. However, complexity is not something to be feared, but rather embraced. To do this, as Birger writes, we must start by changing how we look at things, and we must recognize that systems are everywhere and dynamic, and we are part of it. So as a designer, we have a crucial role, not only because design deals with change, but also because it has the ability to go beyond the individual elements and look at their relationship, which are nothing more than the emergence of the system themselves. As a designer, we have a unique ability to understand and convey complexity. We are trying to think critically, look at problems from multiple angles, and find creative solutions. As Tomás Maldonado said, we as a designer use design as a critical and reflective tools for social change, to promote social and environmental sustainability. So today, more than ever, we have the crucial responsibility that goes beyond just creating physical objects. We have a social responsibility to help others understand and navigate the complexity of the system that shape our world. We can help empower individuals and communities to be aware of their own situation and serve them to informed decision through design. Indeed, this book, Designing Complexity, is proof of that. Thanks to this book, every reader, whether designer or not, has an essential tool for dealing with the complexity of the real world. So I would like to thank once again my friend Birger for writing, and I know how hard can be, and for inviting me to this presentation, which represents a real landmark, not only for the systemic design community and association that I represent as a chair, since 2018, but for the entire design community, because it increases the cooperation that is the lifeblood of our role. And in this spirit of cooperation, I'm also much obliged for the fruitful collaboration that AHO and Politecnico di Torino have started. Lastly, I would conclude with a sentence from this book that made my day. We need to become better at embracing complexity and at the same time take more responsibility for our action. This change is only in its beginning, but it is desperately needed. The every way we change our world has to change. Designing complex systems means designing in a new way, partly giving up control, partly leaving the planning executing mode, and work over time with systems as they change. It also means designing on multiple levels and catering for secondary effects, nudging and triggering more than imposing, and to let things grow and flourish, rather than construct and harness. Thank you, Birger.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. I'm doing this without some formal introduction to the speakers because it's kind of a family, isn't it? I'm thinking of that. If you want to know more about them, there is in the program you see what they represent and who they are, and you can Google and you'll find a lot of articles if you have nothing to read. Probably some books. Okay, and then we're ready for you, Peter. Oh, Peter Jones, you're there?
Yes, I am. Do I show up when I speak?
When I have done a little bit of, I wouldn't call it magic, but I need to remove a pin.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm Peter Jones for maybe a small number in the room. Actually, I see a few people that I know, and it feels great to be able to join you from Toronto. I'm a professor at OCAD University, Art and Design School in Toronto, and have been a colleague and partner of Birger's since what I consider the very early days or the beginnings of the field that has grown and has been now represented after more than a decade with a small number of books. And I would say perhaps Harold Nelson's book, The Design Way, from 2012 with an earlier version, but in 2012 that really hit was I think a significant publication and really set the bar for for this field. He didn't use the word systemic design as much as now that we've developed, because we didn't even call it that then. Harold did, and it was just starting to develop. But I'm really delighted to see Designing Complexity now published, and I'm happy to join you in the gallery today. And so Birger and I do go back about a dozen years before RSD. And I want to tell a bit of a story of how perhaps our books even started. So, I mean, before, even RSD1, Birger and I had exchanged workshops between AHO and OCAD. And that's how I also met Harold. And Harold was also coming into AHO and providing workshops. And we learned about each other's developing practices. And system-oriented design developed from this core studio practice within AHO and with Birger's development with big ideas, complex projects, interesting sponsors, research through design. And there were very early papers that, in fact, these were the only papers that we had that were in what we call systemic design now, that Birger's Nordes paper from 2011 and paper on gigamapping, which really I think is in a sense the core of the ideas in the book. We used that paper for a very long time, so it's great that there is a book now. So we learned from the gigamapping process and from all the work that we could bring together that could inform the interdiscipline that was forming in this kind of dynamic practice. At OCAD, we didn't use gigamaps as much as we learned that our processes had to be more research-led, to bring research to the visualization, to do in a different type of process, which we called synthesis maps. But we still teach the difference of gigamaps, and sometimes we still do a good gigamap. And we continue to build the knowledge from these practices. And in the early years, we didn't have enough that was published to be able so we had to kind of build a scaffolding that the students in the field and that other research could work from. And we found that other schools were working in their own way. So that's when we found for example, the Politecnico di Torino and Chalmers and other schools along the way. But back when we were, before there were any books, there were no books we could use in teaching or to learn methodology in in this field that we're, in systems-oriented design was the kind of framing that Birger had, and that we call systemic design is within the SDA. And so I would use different books in my teaching from systems thinkers, such as Gare Jadagi, who's a student or is a protege of Russell Acuff's, and Donnell Meadows. But these had very little contribution to design. And Banathy's book cost $100. So, in our teaching at OCAD, I would use a mix of papers, and we actually stopped using books once we developed Crystal Van Ale and I with a team started working on the systemic design toolkit, used papers and the toolkit for a kind of methodology for teaching. And so, in fact, just in this last year, then Crystal Van Ale and I had kind of a series of soft launches for design journeys through complex systems. And I just had my Toronto book launch for that just 2 months ago. So these are very recent occasions. Birger's book and mine now are back to back. But it's not a race. We were both very well-wishing of each other's work, and I think that they are very different and have kind of complementary fits, where design journeys to complex system is very methodological, developmental for people that are going to be often, for a lot of people that are going to be very new to the field and may not even be identified as designers. We call it a tour book, where we have tourists and explorers. And so Birger's book can also reach, I think, both audiences, the designing complexity. So I want to point out one of the occasions that brought us together in about 2011 was Harold Nelson's call for an edited volume that is an open call across the field and through emails or email lists. And he and Eric Stolderman, Designway, they had their book underway, but they were looking to see if they could get a collection of articles for MIT Press volume. And there were some pretty weak contributions, and ended up dismissing that call and actually not going forward with an edited collection, even though they had the editor-in-chief's okay and support for it. It just wasn't enough work in 2011. It wasn't very much public fit this. I must have blown up the internet. Sorry.
Yeah, you were
Am I
sort of
back?
at the limit of the time, so I was wondering if it was a system out there stopping you talking, but
Let me close then.
yeah, thank you.
Sorry about that. So I think in the decade or so that followed, we've developed a huge amount of material and ideas, a catalog of visualizations, maps, design products. And there are so many artifacts that have to be viewed up close, will not be as useful in a book. And so the system-oriented design website, which our colleague Cheryl had also helped actually with our, reviewing things and helping us closely. And as a colleague, I would like to also say that the SOD website was perfectly timed to be available as what we call a multi-channel platform for the book and for the work. And so I'm just delighted to see Birger's book, Design and Complexity, published, and proud that we have something of a canon now of several books that are published, that are available to all readers, and not just to the expert, the researchers and senior designers that come directly through the RSD community, but that can be made more openly available. So this is now part of the bookshelf of a must-read work, and will contribute to what I think is the canon for the next decade. So thank you very much for having me, and congratulations, Birger.
Thank you very much, Peter. Now we have a 7 minute of meeting before we take the last little bump. Yes. We are doing Oslo poll. Turn down this a bit. Yes, vi
Sett den litt som at det ikke bare er på kamera.
skal ha med oss Linda for alle.
Er det her jeg skal stå?
Supert.
Ja.
Bra.
Ja, hei. I'm Linda Blåsberg. I work as a systems-oriented designer, and I work in now the Norwegian welfare and labor administration. It's interesting, tiresome, challenging. You learn a lot, and everything that we that work with complexity finds fun. I studied at AO and was introduced to systems-oriented design, and at that point, many pieces of the puzzle fell into place for me. And my first sub-course was in 2009. And for me, it's interesting to have experienced the course as a student and also been able to follow the development when we were colleagues as well after. So I wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for our collaboration. And what I would like to elevate is that you always showed so much trust and gave a lot of responsibility, which I think for me defines you. And it's great and it's scary and not always very easy. But also I think that relates to the development of systems-oriented design, which is to me, I don't think you want to have an authority or to decide, but you want to share and collaborate, learn and challenge and support and discuss. And I find that so cool. And it's challenging and we learn. And so it's a learning system. And you described so that's a method without,
Methodology
without methods. Yes, that's that one. So we go from an outset and we have a direction, but we don't give a procedure on how to solve problems, at least not complex problems. So for me, I want to lift that the mindset is the most important. And the realization and the reality of that systems are everywhere. And that everything is part of a system and more systems. So once I saw this, I could not have it unseen. And in light of that, for me, I'm concerned with the systems understanding and that it's something immediate that we constantly need to practice. Our ability to observe and describe system functioning and how to understand existing and the possible dynamics that can occur. So congratulations with the book. Finally, there is a book that summarizes the Oslo School for Systemic Design, which you describe it as. And it's also very interesting for us that follow the subject to have this book to learn about the development and to look to the theories behind the subject. And it gives us also this opportunity to understand the different dialects of SOD that you describe in the systemic design landscape, and what systems-oriented design is and what it is not. And maybe we can contribute to create new dialects. And in that way, connect us to this learning system. And I think your book is a very relevant contribution to the education. And in the book, as when you teach or lecture, you want to be understood. So I think the book is written in a language which makes it possible to understand without being theoretic in the foundation. So I find it, so you take
examples from known things, like the very famous coffee cup that maybe others have been listening to as well, apples and cars and traffic. And you can communicate complex theory through simple and illustrative examples from daily life. And it makes the content of the book accessible, and it's a very functional pedagogical movement. It's great fun. So maybe I'm on time now, but I can maybe connect a little bit to NAV, where I work, where we actually have to work. We cannot choose complexity away. And so it's so great that it's a book now that can contribute to the next generation of systems-oriented designers. And so it makes designers competent in dealing with complex problems, as you describe as problematics and wicked problems and networks of problems. And now we have a lot of those things. Yeah, I was thinking that I should skip this, but now we cannot skip complexity. And there are always at least 6 or 7, up to 10 perspectives in play at once when you solve a problem. Think about just naming a few. You have user perspective or user needs, rules and regulations, politics, democratic design, universal design, dependencies, dilemmas. And we cannot exclude any of them or design for only one. It won't add up. So complexity is the nature of public sector, and systems-oriented design is a helpful mindset and not a method, but that is a way of working. So for example, we cannot solve unemployment, but we can handle it. And I think the value of this can be described through several dimensions, as the mindset, collaboration, dialogue, visualization, the endurance to stand in processes over time, and of course, transdisciplinary to learn from other fields. And they are key to a learning system for continuous learning and improvement of dynamic systems, which are all the time in change, as we talk about in the book, that we always are designing for living systems. So to conclude, I think your contributions to design are of substance. With systems-oriented design and also the previous mentioned RSD conferences, they create arenas for cooperation and dialogue to solve problems that has value for society and the people. And now this new milestone. So congratulations, vad är det show me i boken?
Tack för det.
Sorry, Birgit. Dear Birgit, very grateful to be invited here and say something to you on this big occasion. A myth or maybe a truth about academia is that it is a field characterized by fierce competition and sharp elbows. And this is really not you. Back in 2009, when I was quite new in my job at Doga, you invited me and a colleague into your sub world. I really remember our first meeting very well. It's a very vivid image. We were in a meeting room upstairs at the Design Institute on the 3rd floor at Ahu. And for me, SOD was love at first sight. And in many ways, a real professional game changer, which has shaped my approach and thinking in doing my work at Design and Architecture Norway, which is a position, is a public finance, and it's a position between, in a way, academia and the private sector, design industry, and the clients. And our objective is to actually try to push the understanding and the use of design. And obviously, SOD needed to be used and had a lot to contribute with. And Birgit, your easygoing and distinctly inclusive style nurtures interest, openness, and sharing of knowledge. These qualities are the opposite of the aggressive academic and have created unusually fertile conditions for students, designers, researchers, or design advisors like myself to learn and take part of the development of system-oriented design practice. And I think the SOD environment in Norway has become a living, flourishing ecosystem, just as you intended. And SOD has really, or systems-oriented design, has really left a distinct mark in Norway. As you heard Linda talk about, and I'm sure which Adrian will elaborate on. And I would like to be a little bit, so this is not sounds like fluffy words on my part. I will be very concrete on behalf of Doga and mention 2 examples. My systems-oriented design knowledge, thanks to you, Birgit, was really crucial in the design of or design-driven innovation scheme, Stimulab, which Doga developed in collaboration with another government agency. And I think through the systems, in a way, sensitive setup that we've been able to support quite large-scale government projects through Stimulab. And because of SOD, this has proven that time and again, that design and systems-oriented design is really suitable for solving really important challenges that Norwegian public sector has been unable to decipher so far. So this is where actually, I think systems-oriented design is filling some some gaps that needs to be filled. The key role of systems-oriented design the key role that systems-oriented design can play in tackling wicked problems has also increased the respect and understanding of the relevance and importance of design in general, and also for systems-oriented design specifically in public sector. And this is especially in public sector. And this is actually, as another example, pivoted Doga to a much more strategic, high-level position in the government. And I think we are now in a much larger, or to much higher degree, sought for to have to come with advice and opinions, because as Linda was mentioning, public sector is incredibly complex. And we're running out of time and money to start solving some of these issues. And we really are in great need of finding new tools and methods that can help us. So I feel truly privileged and very grateful to have had the opportunity to follow your pioneering work with systems-oriented design. I get goosebumps when I say that you are, because I don't know many pioneers. You are a pioneer in my eyes in many ways. I think you've pioneered something for AHO and also for design, especially in Norway. And in the course of a decade, issues like complexity and systems-oriented design have moved from really unknown words, niche competencies, topics, to be actually an approach in demand. Just look at Adrian and try to fit in some extra time in his calendar. And I think that is true. This is a decade. That's a really amazing journey. The book being launched today will be, I think, a truly valuable and important contribution to continue to nurture and build this much needed knowledge and capacity, and also fuel the exciting momentum we're experiencing here in Norway when it comes to the use and demand of systems-oriented design. So on behalf of Doga and myself, obviously, congratulations with this great feat.
So it's like being the last one between these groups and dinner. and then realizing that's how much they care about you. Because they're here and they're listening. And also I asked Jirigu, like, how should I get very emotional? And he should just go for it. So I'm gonna just start on a personal level and then talk a little bit from Hall again, and then I'm gonna try and end on a note which should include everyone. See if that works out. So on a personal level, there is nobody who's influenced me as much as you have as a designer. That's an easy math, because when I tried to do projects that I didn't want to de-scope, you're pretty much the one who said, "Oh, that's fine. You can just get into it." And that's sort of been a learning to relax and just embrace it, which actually led to like a bunch of sayings later, which was the halogen way of like, take arms against a sea of trouble. That's basically just learning from you. So I was very privileged to teach with you and learn from you, and then being sort of taken into the systems community with you, which has been just central for my learning. So for that, I'm very grateful. And also now I can also point to the book, because then people say, what did you learn from Birger? I'm like, how many hours do you have? Now I can just say, buy the book. I'm going to get the QR code and just do that. But also I'm not the only one. Many people have left AO or visited AO and then come to work at Halogen. So in Halogen, there's been, from the moment I started, you've also been mentioned as a colleague almost, as someone that we can talk with, learn from, share back with. And I don't take that for granted, because taking someone's research and teaching and putting it into a commercial context can create some friction. And that's understandable, but that hasn't happened with you. So having that sort of open dialogue, even trying to write small booklets, trying to publish papers and then failing at it, that's been, and also being included at conferences, that's just been a massive part. So from the whole of Halogen, like a massive thank you. And we really look forward to building on top of the book and do more stuff. And then today, I'm just gonna use my day as an example, because earlier this morning, I was in a meeting room and suddenly I met Elisabeth, because she's in NAV now together with Linda. And suddenly I was in the tax ministries working on something. And it happens to be like a very fuzzy and ill-defined and terrible project. And of course, you find someone who's taking sold there. And then I spent some time with the municipalities. So really practical to have the map of the Norwegian public sector behind me, because I spent some time with the municipalities, because they have a collapsing health sector. Who do I find? Monica Pettersson, who's also a fan of system-centered design, just worked with Birger. And then you look at this, there's someone there, Paul Shapley. That's that guy. And he's now working now again. And he met system-centered design because we brought a big map where we said, this is how the public sector doesn't solve the boligsocial problem. So I just find all these examples, and everything sort of points in a way back to you. So now when you need a break, you can just put the book on the chair. And then every point will point to the book. And those who really want to can contact the reader and the writer. And for that, I'm really glad for you that you actually managed to get this book out, because it's a massive task to actually do that. And just looking around all of these faces, which is really amazing, because since I spent some time with you, I know that if you turn around and look at these faces, you will see students and colleagues and project workers that are all sort of smiling and being super excited for you. So on behalf of myself, I'm very thankful. And from Halogen, a massive thank. And also, I'm guessing I'm just going to do the kind of brave thing and include everyone to say a massive thank you to you as well.
I think to all of those speakers, I have to ping pong back because I'm mutually grateful for having those people responding and to having a communication and to have ideas and to demonstrate practices and to see it flourish at NAV, etc., which made me confident, which was super important to have the dialogue with Dorga. And this has been, you have been giving a lot. So it's not one way, this is just what I want to say. But now, mingling.
Me